I guess a lot of what I have said in these podcasts that makes me a fraud is if you do this, if you honor who your child is, you will be close to them, and it probably looks like this. And it doesn't look like this right now. It looks like something else.
Parenting's hard, you don't know what to do. You're blaming your kids, but it's probably you. You love your kids and that you can trust. Just remember your kids don't suck.
Welcome to Your Kids Don't Suck, cultivating closeness with your children through non-coercive conscious parenting. We're your hosts, Cara Tedstone and Rythea Lee. Let's dive in and grow together. Welcome back to Your Kids Don't Suck. This is Cara Tedstone speaking. I am a family therapist if you haven't tuned in before, and this is a podcast on parenting non-coercively and collaboratively. And Rythea Lee, also a therapist, is with me, and we have been chatting lately because we're very good friends. So we talk on WhatsApp and we send each other lengthy voice notes regularly. We kind of co-counsel, we support each other, we vent to each other, we check in, we see how things are going with our kids and with ourselves. And lately, the theme has been, Rythea, I feel like a fucking fraud as a parent. I feel like I've said that to you a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about what we should record next, that was my idea, was why don't we talk about how I've been feeling like a fraud? And then Rythea was like, that's a great idea because I too have been feeling like a fraud.
Oh, yeah. And also, my daughter, who's 13, tells me I'm a fraud.
Right.
She's like, do your listeners know that you just said that? You know, stuff like that.
Right. Doesn't she say something like about recording you? Like, I should show your like, do your followers like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's so
Yeah. She's
funny.
like, I need to record this and show
Yeah.
people how you really are.
Yeah, how you really are.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Well, the I think feeling like a fraud for me also comes from having a podcast. Like, I am talking about a philosophy that I really think is the way. And yet, my voice notes to you are like, I'm fucking it up. I'm fucking it up. I'm constantly fucking it up. So yeah, we just wanted to talk about that. I think that might feel relatable to people who maybe like really subscribe to this way of thinking, but find it fucking impossible. And I just want to say that I am with you. Something that I've been struggling a lot with lately has been bedtime and just sleep, which is again coming up because I've talked about this multiple times on this show. And it's something that like I want to heal in myself. Like I just want to be totally cool with being woken up at night or having a late bedtime or not sleeping myself or whatever. And I just can't. I'm just so triggered. And then I'm not kind to my kid. Yeah. What has it been like for you feeling like a fraud?
Well, I didn't account for the fact that my child has to individuate.
Mm,
You know, I feel really, really, really good about raising her this way. I mean, I don't even think we realize, Kara, because we've been doing it for a while, how rare and unusual and beautiful it is what we're doing. So we're not
mm-hmm.
using force to punish or coerce or give consequences or shame or all the controlling stuff. We're not doing that, and we have to work so hard to not do that every single day. Every single day. I have stories today to tell you about how much I want to retaliate against my child and what I have to do to not do that and the practice of holding myself back and pausing. But I guess a lot of what I have said in these podcasts that makes me a fraud is if you do this, if you honor who your child is, you will be close to them, and it probably looks like this. And it doesn't look like this right now. It looks like something else because I only have one kid. So I'm only learning how it looks as she gets to each age. And I had no idea that now it would look like her individuating. And and then that's good. And that's healthy. And it's so triggering. And it's like you actually can't predict what it will look like if you respect your child's boundaries and autonomy. You don't, there's no, every kid is different. Every family's different. Every parent is different. And I'm particularly triggered in such a way at this age, 13.
Mm.
So it's kind of like being a fraud. It's kind of like saying it's about bringing up the perfectionism.
Oh yeah.
You are very much a perfectionist, Kara, and I feel like that too because I want to be a good person and a good parent, and I feel so
Yeah.
much shame when I'm not. And I'm making all these videos telling parents do
Yeah.
this, do that, and don't do this and don't do that. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anybody who's a public person that takes a stand, like you're fucked. Because
Yeah.
your life is gonna turn ways and you're gonna be a piece of shit. And you have the only way to deal with it is to own it. That's the only way you can deal with it.
Uh,
If you try to uphold it, you're screwed.
right, right. No, because it's performance then. You're so right. I'm getting like a gut punch when you're saying that. I'm like, yes, it's so true. It like hurts to, I don't know, sort of come into contact with that idea. But it is so true. And also I work with families every day and I'm a family therapist, so I don't always see families who are non-coercive. Like I talk about that with a lot of people, but a lot of people who are very much in authoritative practices that aren't looking for that feedback. And
Right.
I'm over here talking about this way of life and sort of pulling them into it and talking about why, and giving them that psychoeducation. And I get a lot of feedback. The parents are like, "Oh my God, wow, you must be like the best mom, most chill mom. I could never be like that. I had one client tell me recently, which I felt like was the best compliment ever. They said, you should just have as many kids as you can because your kids are going to be so lucky to have you. And I
Mm,
was like, wow, what a beautiful thought. And then I proceeded to get really firm with my daughter later that day and just had that compliment in my head, like reinforcing this idea that I'm such a fucking fraud. I'm really not nice to my daughter at
mm.
times. And that just, it's just something that like, I don't know, I have a hard time confronting. Like I want to be perfect is something that I say a lot on here is that I feel like this philosophy also, the bar is very high, the
Hmm.
standard that we uphold for ourselves in the way that we treat our kids. We're trying to strive for this approach, and it's in my perfectionism. When I fail, that's what it feels like is a failure.
Right. And I have a Facebook group and there's a lot of parents on there are trying very, very hard to not use their power over their kids. And everyone's failing every day. And that's the
Yeah.
thing that we've learned is like we will hurt our children. Even no
Hmm.
matter how hard we try and we're doing this approach, but we still will hurt our children because we also have all of our stuff that we're bringing and they're going to inherit it unconsciously also from
Yeah.
from our ancestry and our partners, and then they'll have the world, and then they'll have their friends, and then they'll have school, and then they'll have teachers, and then, they're going to be hurt and wounded. There's no way around it. So I think it'd be fun to talk about some fraud moments. Let's talk about some fraud
Mm.
moments. So yesterday, wait, what's today, Monday? Yesterday was
Hmm.
Father's Day. So on Saturday night, I was texting my daughter, "Do you want to make a card for your dad and for Will?" So first she goes, "No." Now I should have just, that's it. I should stop texting her. But I
Hmm.
didn't. I wrote, "Are you sure you're not going to feel bad in the
Mm.
morning when you don't have anything to give them?" Because in the past, she actually has felt bad. So I
Yeah,
thought I was
I
trying to
get it.
help her.
I
So she
totally get it.
writes to me, "Stop shaming me or I'm going to block you. Don't text me again." And I'm like, I was so offended. She's never told me she was going to block me before. I was looking for an emoji. I was going to send her an emoji that was like a fuck you
Middle
finger.
finger.
Yeah, I was looking like, ah. So I
Oh,
actually
this is
wrote,
killing me.
then I wrote, ouch. I wrote, ouch. And then she said, "I told you not to text me." So I'm sitting there and like breathing. Ooh, and this is something like breathing and like, who should I call? Because I'm about to act out. I'm about to totally
Hmm.
lash. Oh, I wanted to so bad. I wanted to be like, you're a fucking bitch or whatever. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
I would
Just
never say
snap.
that to her, but I wanted to send her an emoji of like,
Yeah.
something. Just to
It's
be like,
so funny.
and then I was like, finally, I started breathing. I've learned don't do anything, of course, when you're triggered. Do nothing, do nothing, do nothing, get help, call someone, whatever. But
Yeah.
then I was like, wow, if she could do that to me, then she could do that to other people. And I
Yeah.
want her to be able to do that to other people.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
want her to be able to say to someone, stop shaming me, or I'm going to block you. Okay, I'm
Totally.
blocking you. So then
Totally.
I turn it around and I'm like, wait, this is what I want. This is
Uh-huh.
literally what I want. And she's testing it on me.
Ah, it's so hard to do that.
And if I respond in a shaming, shut it down way, critical way, I'm actually fucking up her ability to make boundaries.
I know. You're so brilliant. That's
But
so
but
fucking good.
every single person listening is like, yeah, but you're supporting her to be rude. You can tell her it's okay to make a boundary, but I don't like the way you did it. Blah, blah, blah. I don't do that.
Right.
That's not how I work. My daughter is actually brilliant and she figures it out herself. She's actually very kind and considerate to her friends. Whatever. She needs to do it that way. That's her being her. She's not a mean person. She's just
Right. That's the point. It's her being her. She can be that with you.
yeah.
That's where they get to explore these approaches and try out and have a process. Oh my God, but the doing what you did is brilliant. Like, cause well, from my perspective, that's what this show's about is like I'm hearing you going, hell yeah. I mean, people who disagree, well, okay. But that's not what I'm here to say, is I'm here to say, yes, absolutely. I wish I could do that every single time. And I know you don't always succeed, right?
No, and I did go back to her. I do think it's important to say I talked to her later. She was at her dad's, and I was like, "Why were you blocking me? Like, what was going on?" And she said, "Well, I didn't like how you're talking to me, and I felt like you were shaming me." And I was like, "Oh, okay. That makes sense." I was like, "Wow, I didn't realize you'd have to block me." She was like,
Right.
"Yes." And then she said, "Yeah, well, you're unblocked now." And I was like, "Oh, so you blocked me." So she actually blocked me.
Right.
Oh my God.
Well, I guess she was like, I guess, yeah, without sort of psychoanalyzing it, I guess it was just your question of like, aren't you going to feel bad or are you sure you're not going to feel bad?
Yeah.
She's like, I will fucking decide for myself, please, and thank you.
Right. And I'm also learning that and she tells me this, like I'm very pulley. I pull on her energetically. I'm really
Right, because
working
people
on
might
it.
say, like, what's wrong with asking the question? Because I've
Yeah.
said that to you before. I've said, like, she might get annoyed with your questions. It doesn't mean you should, like, never ask,
Yeah.
right? But I get it. From her perspective, she's like, okay, but if you ask me and I tell you to fuck off, then you can expect that I'm going to shut you out. And if you don't, right?
Right.
Because she's being triggered by it.
What 13-year-old could do that?
Right.
I
Right.
can't even do it now. And I'm 56 or something.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? So like I want that muscle in her. But I've also noticed that if later I ask her like what was going on, she often says, "I'm sorry, mom. I was
Right.
I was
Right.
blah blah blah." So she has a conscience and she has empathy, but
Totally.
also there's a deeper history of the way that she said to me yesterday, "You're so reactive. You're so reactive to everything." And I am.
Right.
So I suck, that's the I suck part. If I hadn't raised my daughter this way, she wouldn't be able to tell me that.
That's right. Yeah. No, and I think also, I guess what has really been working or what has been evident is that because I'm a fraud, because I get really triggered, I mean, for example, the bedtime thing or just frustration, like, my kid is 3. So this is I mean, 3-year-olds are, I think my theory is that no person does well under control. I think like we all have a pervasive drive for autonomy, even though that is now what PDA is considered to be a nervous system disability. But I do think we all have this need for autonomy, like that lives within us, and then some people experience it in an extreme way or, a more pervasive way. But my daughter has a very strong will, and most 3-year-olds do, but chill she is not. Her temperament is intense. And so just moving through our days, and especially like because of this approach, I'm almost always in play with her. Like play is the language that we speak together. So it's like not really about directions. It's not like get your shoes on, it's brush your teeth time. It's like we're always playing a game to get her to do the things that we need to do. So it's not coercive, it's fun and it's, relational. And at the end of the day, I'm fucking exhausted. I'm fucking done. I'm done at 7 p.m. I've got no spoons left. Like I basically feel like I need her to go to bed. And we don't really do that. We go upstairs, we like start resting. Bedtime's not, we don't have like a routine. Like we hang out until, you know, she's ready to go in her crib and she'll say like I'm ready to go in my crib. I'll make her into a bun. That's what we're doing lately. I make her into a bun. I don't know. With like her stuffies and stuff. And anyway, and then she doesn't want me to go, right? It's the whole thing. It's, you know, stay. I want one more minute, stay, do this, do that. And then it's going on and on and on. And like there have been just so many nights where I've just gotten super firm with her and been like, I can't, I'm exhausted, I have to go, I'm going to bed, like, because I literally am going in my bed. Like that's what I'm doing. And she doesn't even want me to stay till she falls asleep because she won't fall asleep. She'll just talk to me. And she wants my input too. So it's like, I feel so trapped. And then that trapped feeling, you know, pushes me to be reactive. And then I'm like, you know, I go in my head, I go, that's it, I can't anymore. And I just like snap at her. And then I was going somewhere with this, which is that I always apologize. And she'll say to me now, why were you grumpy last night? Why were you so frustrated with me? And I'll tell her, I'm so sorry. I was so tired and that's not on you and that's not your fault. That's me. I'm still working on it. You deserve a kind mommy. Like these are all things that I say. And now she apologizes to me when she's been grumpy.
Uh-huh.
She'll say things like, I'm sorry, mommy. And it's not from a place of like trying to people please me or she's scared of me or, you know, because I'm not reactive when she makes mistakes at all. But
Mm.
it's, I think what is reassuring about being a fraud and fucking up is forcing myself, even when I feel like I don't want to, forcing myself every single time I mess up. Those are more extreme examples, but even if I use like a slightly frustrated tone with her at any point, I apologize. And I think that that really gives her the permission to like, yeah, develop a real sense of empathy for me. Like not because it's a people pleasing thing, not because I'm her mom and she has to like, you know, be good, but because she actually just relationally, like we have this dynamic where when we mess up, we apologize and we want to
Mm-hmm.
repair and get into connection
Mm.
again.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that is at least something that I get out of fucking up and then repairing. At least, you know, she sees that in action versus the silent treatment or love withdrawal or, you know, avoidance and shutting down or, you know, having an explosive fight and then oh, honey, what do you want for breakfast? Like that's so
Right.
strange and uncomfortable. And we have this
It's
very
actually crazy.
honest,
It's crazy making.
totally crazy making.
Yeah.
And I think there's something dystopian about that.
Well, it makes children have to split.
Uh-huh.
They have to be like, okay, I guess that's not real. I'll just do the nice part now. And it makes them have to make parts. They have to
And
make parts.
perform.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like capitalism. Like, you know, doesn't matter what happens to you, you still got to get up and go to work the next day. You still got to perform for your employers and for your family.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like I don't want that. I want to fuck up and then actually have a real moment of like, look where I am not perfect. Look where I'm not
Yeah.
human. And I say that a lot. I'm not perfect. And I'm always working to learn from my mistakes and things like that. And just I just really want her to know that it's okay to really fuck things up and then figure out a way to make it better.
What's happening with you and your nighttime triggers?
Like, do you mean how I'm trying to get better?
Yeah. How are you exploring that? Or like, it sounds like it's a daily thing.
It's actually not a daily thing. I would say it's maybe like once a week.
Oh.
Yeah, when I'm especially under-resourced, like feeling sick or, you know, super fucking
And you're
exhausted.
always the one who puts her in the crib?
A lot. My
Uh-huh.
husband does do it quite often, but she'll also ask for him if I'm grumpy. She'll say, I want daddy. And I'll say, okay, good idea.
Okay. That's what I was gonna
So
say.
exactly. So he'll tap in for me. But there are a lot of nights where like she is asking for me or he's out, you know, or working late or whatever. And so I'm doing it. And then also nap time on the weekend. She still likes to take a nap. So I do that for some reason. I don't know why, but I always do that. And that's also tough because it's like after I've spent the whole morning and she's like pulling on me at that time, even though she's like wanting this nap, I'm like, yeah, it's just it feels feels really I want my rest now is kind of how it feels. But in terms of working on it, I mean, I do parts work And I also really work actively, like in the present moment, with just trying not to say anything. Because I'm like, if I say something right now, it's going to come out mean.
Yeah.
And so I really try to, yeah, just say nothing and just like wait with her. And I also try to like do the opposite of what my intention is, or like what my reactivity is like I'll try to like love extra on her instead of
Mm.
be mean. So I'll like
Oh.
get in the crib with her a lot, and I'll just be like,
Uh-huh.
I'll be like, oh, I'm so tired. And I'll say that. And I'll be like, oh, I think I need like a snuggle. And I'll like climb in the crib and
You can get
cuddle.
in the crib.
I get in the crib with her. Yeah.
That's so cute. It
I
can
know.
carry you. It can hold you.
I mean, I'm sure people will be like, that's such a safety risk, but it's like, I don't know, the crib is very sturdy. Yeah, I get in there and I like climb in there and I like snuggle her and like I try to like kiss her little hands and like kiss her cheek. I love her little cheeks so much. I kiss her little cheeks a lot and like stroke her little cheeks when I feel like that's something that I do that is like preventative or like protective or something to get me into out of reactivity. But I mean, like I think I'm working really hard on it, like outside of those moments. And I also visualize it going well a lot.
Oh, that's good.
So I do a lot of things, but then it's just like I think it's just that like I need to fucking lay down. My body is like shutting down.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say for people who haven't listened to, there's a podcast episode that we did about bedtime with me about my bedtime issues, which went on for years,
Hmm.
with my daughter, and I was just triggered for years. I don't know what. I worked on my issues and I worked on it in therapy and I did tapping and but my trauma at night is so extreme that I almost never got to the point where I wasn't triggered. The only thing that changed it was that she went to school and she wanted to go to school, and so she wanted to go to bed early because she had to get up at like 5:50 in the morning. And
Yeah.
suddenly we weren't up late anymore. And it just like developmentally just everything changed. That
Yeah.
was like the best school is like the best thing ever in that way because I could go to bed early. Because I was
Yeah.
so triggered after about 11. I was just like a jerk. And no matter how hard I tried, I just never got better at it. But my partner helped a lot, and there were good days and bad days. And I guess the point is part of being a fraud is like, sure, like we do this, and there's certain areas where they're just it's just triggering for years, and then developmentally things change. Now my daughter goes to sleep by herself. She just like good night, and she just stays up to whenever she wants. I mean, I never
Right.
thought that would ever happen.
Right. And I think that's so important to say and just like say again and again. I mean, I sometimes just need to hear that is that like there are certain things that our kids will do and it will always change, but like having, I guess, just having a human reaction, feeling triggered, like feeling like you can't, feeling too tired, just, yeah, just being in relationship with somebody is hard. And
It is hard.
I guess like sometimes I do the extreme version of all of this. Like in my head, I'm like, if I'm going to podcast about being a non-coercive collaborative parent, I have to be like some version of the perfect mother myth who, you know, is always smiling and feeling at ease and at peace and like just not having feelings other than, I don't know, joy, like bliss or
Do
something.
you
Like
really believe that? Because that is so weird.
I think that's like a part of me. And then I have the reality.
Is that like an archetype? Like I guess like the perfect mom, like the mom
Yes.
always
Yes.
loving and unfeathered.
Yes. And
I mean, there is
also,
nobody like that. Literally, that doesn't exist.
yeah, yeah, just endless patience, like never to be depleted, I guess, just always something else to give. And like
Mm.
does it with a smile and like does it with, you know, and then I think about that and I'm like, you know, if a client said that to me, I'd be like, are you fucking serious? Like,
Yeah,
are
like that
you
doesn't even
nuts?
exist.
No, and also that's such a extreme way to live. Like,
But I guess that goes with the fact that like we were raised female. We should never age and
yeah,
our bodies should never change and we should never have wrinkles and our hair should never go gray and we should never get fat and we should blah. I guess it
yeah.
goes with all of that, that we're just like robots or something.
Yeah, selfless, like totally selfless.
Oh.
And I am not selfless. Like I really love, like for example, my work. Like I chose to go back very early, which I
Mm,
felt such immense shame for because most
mm.
parents in my area, like they take off like 18 months, you know, we're in Canada, so you get a year mat leave, but I'm self-employed anyway, so I wasn't going to get that. But the point is I felt so much shame because I thought a good mother, like the perfect mother, stays home with their baby.
I
But I
see.
love my job. I love my daughter, but I really love
Yeah.
my job.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, I have things I like to do that don't involve her directly. And it's so hard to like grapple with wanting to be this like perfect mom who's like never impatient, but then I also have other real needs and wants and you know.
Right. Well, but the fact is that it's the challenges and the hardships that create the strength of the relationship.
Mhm.
It's the what's it called when you have a break and
Ruptures.
yeah, it's the ruptures and the repairs. It's also your child seeing you having feelings and like, oh, my parent is human. Like, so my daughter is 13 and she's in school for the first time in her life. She just finished seventh grade. And she is starting to see me and her dad as people that are separate from us. And she's
Mm.
learning from all the kids that adults are totally uncool. We don't like adults and we don't like to spend time with them. And also like my parents are so weird and gross. Like they all feel that about their parents. And so she's learning that about. So she's actually been analyzing me and her dad a lot. She's like, "Oh, you guys are so annoying. You're such hippies." Blah blah. Like she's like, but it's like how she's individuating. She's seeing us as not her, and that's so important. And I never got to do that. I don't know what it's like. I don't know. I have no idea what it's like. I just yeah, so I have to learn about it on this end of it and get pushed away and figure out how to stay and keep my heart open and be there when she's ready to connect, which is also happens all day too. She pushes me away, then she wants to connect. Mom, she calls
Yeah.
me mom.
It has to, and it has to be on her terms. That's the other part of it. Is like you've got to be there so that when she's ready for you, you're there. You're not holding a grudge and you're not taking it all personally so that you're like unavailable. But at the same time, you do have feelings. That's, you know, the reality.
Right.
I bet when you listen to this podcast, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I wish I could call Rythea Lee. Because that's why I reached out to her in the first place. I was a fan of Rythea's. I watched her TikToks. I wrote her. I said, look, we're going to need to collaborate because I love you and I'm in love with you. And I bet if you're listening to this, you're like, I want Rythea's guidance. I want to directly talk to Rythea too. Well, you can and you should, because Rythea actually offers 30-minute support sessions with people who need input on stuck places in their parenting. And I can tell you as her friend, I use her all the time via voice notes. And I want you to know that so can you. You just need to go to the link in our show notes to book a mentoring session with Rythea. She offers 30-minute sessions for parents, and she also has a weekly session open at a reduced rate for low-income and BIPOC individuals. So if you could use some of Rythea's clear, confident, loving, connected, supportive, and brilliant advice, then you need to head over to calendly.com/Rythea or Rythea.com. And those links will be in the show notes.
My mother was dissociated and remote and traumatized and depressed. So she was just like deeply, deeply, deeply unavailable. And she also abused me and she also abused me with my dad. So it's just like the worst, whatever is the worst. And it's almost like not even talking about like it worth talking about because it's so traumatizing. But there was nobody really there. So I couldn't really push her away because I was trying to hold on to the little tiny bit that I was getting.
Mm.
But what happened to me at some point
Mhm.
with my mom, as I just said, inside of myself, needing her is too painful since I can't get any of my needs met. I'm going to have to shut her out now. I'm going to have to shut down. And so I just cut her off. I remember when I was very little, I was like 5. I was like, I can't need her anymore. This is killing me. I'm going to have to cut her
Mm.
off. And I decided, fuck her. Like deep inside, I was just like, fuck her. It's over. And I had to like end it and just focus on my friends. I became like absolutely obsessed with people outside the family, which was a really great choice because I got out of my predicament eventually. But so when Tori is pushing me away or withdrawing from me, it hits my mom's stuff. And then I want to shut her out. So then I have this part, one of my parts goes, fine, fuck her. She doesn't want me. I'm
Mhm.
just going to shut down. How do you like me now? I want to do
Mhm.
that so bad with my kid. I want to
Mhm.
do with her what I did with my mom so badly. I feel like I want to reenact it, and that's where all my power comes from. I can only have power if I shut her out and go, you're hurting me. That's it. It's over. Like,
Mm-mm.
but of course I don't do that. And I have all these things in place and I have all these tools and friends and my partner, everyone to help me not do that. But boy, do I want to. And I think everyone has their version of that, of the
Yeah.
things that we want to reenact that are our core attachment wounds. We want to reenact them because we want to feel powerful. We don't want to go through it again. I don't want to go through it again being attached to someone I love more than anything else and being rejected. I don't ever want to go through that again. I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather shut her out. Or that's
Mm-hmm.
how these parts of me feel. But I have to stay open. I am her main resource. I am her main connection to everything. I cannot do that to her. That's what my mother did to me. I want to do it to her so bad because she hurts my feelings, blah 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 blah. She doesn't love me anymore. She's kicking me out of the inner space.
I love how you were able to get there with that, um, the piece where it's like, I don't want to be rejected again. That's too painful. Like that understanding is so, I don't know, that must be, because can you get to the place in your own process where you're able to be like, okay, like I get what you're trying to do, part, like, thank you, I appreciate that intention. You're trying to protect me from this rejection. And then yeah, is that what you do? Is that how you work with it?
Well, I cry a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
I try to do what's called working early. That's a co-counseling term. I just try to take the triggers into the past, and if you listen to our podcast, that's what we do in all of our podcasts. You take the trigger early, and you just have to keep doing that. You have to commit to doing that, and you have to have tools in place to help you do that because if left to your own devices, you will repeat it. You will.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to read all about it, about how we repeat our traumas.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the reason you have to understand it, right? Have the insight. Otherwise, you're just doing it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's still, even though I know that all and I've been doing all
Yeah.
this deep work, I still like that when she said, I'm gonna block you. Oh my
Right.
God.
You were like middle finger.
Which is so sad because I am be telling her your boundary making is ugly
Unacceptable.
and gross.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I don't like you now because my feelings are more important than your boundary making.
Yeah.
And then that could actually really harm her and it could actually interfere with her development of boundaries. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, and self. I mean, feeling like your parents don't like you. There's a very big difference between knowing that your parents love you and take care of you because they have to, because that you're born to them and that's what it is. But love, I don't know, there's something about love and like, and if you're not intentionally working on the like, I still like you, because that old
Oh.
saying where it's like, the kids are filling in on the videos, the blank, it's like,
Hmm.
I love you, but right now I don't. And the kid says, I don't know, feel tired or whatever. But the answer to that is like, I don't like you. I love you, but right now I don't like you, is the old saying. And like, I am desperate for my kid to not feel like I don't like her because that is such a painful experience. If you were like middle finger, Tori, like,
Yeah.
right, you'd be like, I don't fucking like you.
Oh, and I
Like,
know
you're an asshole.
I can
You're
hear mainstream culture saying like, well, so what? Kids need to learn that they can't be liked all the time.
that's not healthy. It's just not healthy.
I mean, they will learn it. She is learning.
Hmm.
She got bullied. She has friends turn on her every day, all the time. Seventh graders are like literally the worst.
They are.
They're like
Yeah.
little evil children, but so she's getting it, but I don't want her to get that from me. I want to be a reliable source of love. That's what I want. That is my goal. And I'm a fraud also. I fuck it up all the time. Do you want to tell Kara one of your fraud stories? Do you have any others?
I'm trying to think. I mean, I think it's really in those moments where, like, in the middle of the night, she wakes up and she's asking for stuff, or at bedtime where it's just over and over relentless, it feels like. That's where I get mean, like harsh. Like, I don't call her names or anything, but I'm like, no, I'm all done with this. Like, that's the kind of language I use. Like, we're done. Like, good. Stop, basically. Like, I'm telling her no.
But don't
But
you think most people listening would say, like, well, that's a limit. Your needs matter too. That's what most people would think about that.
well,
She needs to know that you have limits, that you're not just superhuman and that you get tired and you're done.
I mean, I think there's truth in that. Like, I do think that she is, regardless of how I treat her, going to learn and needs to learn that I'm not a slave to her. But also, there's a way to do that that is kind, that I don't access in that moment that I want to
Right.
be able to. I'm
Right.
working towards figuring this out. I'm working towards, collaboration. Yeah, you're up in the middle of the night, you're hungry, I'll get you a snack, which I always do. I don't deny her of food. Let me be clear. That's something I don't do. I don't say no, no snacks. It's like she's hungry, she gets, a snack, but we negotiate around like what is reasonable. If she was asking me for a
Mhm.
fruit cup in the middle of the night, which is really difficult to do, it involves me feeding it to her because she doesn't like to get it. Anyway, long story. It's very messy. It would get all over her crib. 2 a.m. Like I was like, I can't, honey. Like that's just not. And I explained to her, and I was actually really gentle. I explained to her why that wasn't gonna work out. And I said, but we do have cheese strings. I was like, how about that? And she was like, yes. So, I still collaborate with her and I'm still telling her I
Uh-huh.
have to go back to bed. Like,
Right.
what do you need? But it's
Right.
in this tone. It's got this like, aggressive, firm, like way that I don't think is kind. And I think she deserves kindness. She's just a little kid. She's woken up in the middle of the night. She's probably had a bad dream. How do I know? I'm not there. And she's calling out for her mother, for her parents who are,
Right.
I want to have empathy for that. And I
Right.
find it very hard.
Right.
I mean, the first few minutes, sure, I go in, I'm very sweet, I'm loving, I like stroke her, but after a while, she's asking for more and more and more. And I've been in there for what, like 35 minutes, middle of the
Yeah.
night. I got shit to do in the morning. I
Yeah.
start to freak out a bit and I'm like, shit, I feel the pressure. If we had no obligations and we could sleep in, we could have a slow morning, I'm sure it would be a lot easier for me to let go of some of that like stress.
So, Kara, what's old for you about this?
Well, I don't know. I'm struggling with that because, well, I think there's, you know, um, like pushing limits was not okay in my young years of life. So that's part of it. But I think about bedtime and like waking up in the middle of the night, and I don't remember anything harsh with my parents. Like my parents might be listening. It's like I remember mom and dad always letting me that into their bed if I needed. Bedtime, I don't think we had like bedtime battles in my house. I remember being read to like I think my mom, she reflects, and I think the boomers, mom, if you're listening, I think you have rose-colored glasses. I've told you that before, on the way that she remembers things like this. But she always says, like, I never used to complain about going to bed. I was so easy.
Mm.
And like, I don't remember anything. So in terms of like this nighttime thing, but for me, you ask about fraud stories. I don't feel like I have too many real moments where I'm like frustrated with her or snippy, except for this bedtime thing and nighttime thing. I think it could be because my brother, like I was woken up, I remember from a nap when my brother, who died in 2019, had a seizure years and years prior to dying. Anyway, it's a long story. He had an interesting health history and he had a seizure and I was napping and that was a big trauma. Everybody was screaming in my house. He was seizing. We thought he was dying. It was the first seizure he ever had. Anyway, and then he turns out he had a brain tumor and like that. I was 14 and I remember being asleep and woken up with like a smashed glass because he had a glass of water. It smashed on the tile. And then
Mm.
my dad running up, my mom screaming, immediately 911. He has
Oh
an
my
adrenal
God.
congenital adrenal hyperplasia. He's seizing. It was just screaming
Oh,
hysterics.
this is your screaming thing that you have.
Yes, and I have a screaming trigger too, which I don't usually get upset with her about. Like I'm not like firm, but I freak out internally. I like plug my ears when she screams, which she hates. But yes, I think that could be related. Like woken up with like a start or her like pulling on me when I'm dead tired. There's something about like my body just like shuts down and I'm like, I can't do this. Like internally, I'm like, I need to hide from this. So I don't know. I've been doing I do a lot of work with my parts on that, but that's a tough one. Like, how do you heal?
But why don't you have Sanjay mostly do the like when you get triggered? Why don't you just have a deal that
He
you
usually does actually. In the middle of the night, he actually almost usually always goes in. But then
Oh.
it's like it gets to a point. I don't know. There's been times where it gets to a point and she's like not settling. So then I'll go in and I'll be like, what is up? Like, what do you need? Like I usually am able to figure out a solution. It's yeah, it's something about like I think it's hard for she will like make him stay forever. Whereas like when I go in, I'm like, I'm not gonna
Oh.
stay forever, but we can come and she'll actually accept like, okay, you can
Mhm.
go if you get me a cheese string or whatever.
I do want to say that I don't believe that it's always like the trigger is always about the exact thing. Like
Yeah, me too.
it's not always like, oh, bedtime is because I had a hard bedtime, or food is because they were bad with food, or like it's not always
Mm-hmm.
like that. It has to do with being rendered powerless.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the triggers for
Yeah.
parent.
Yeah,
Your
yeah, yeah,
child
totally.
won't do blah blah blah. They feel powerless, and it triggers something very deep about being powerless as a child.
Yeah.
Very complex. It's not like a simple thing.
Yeah.
That's why I couldn't. I mean, I improved a lot with my daughter's bedtime, but I never got to the point where I wasn't triggered.
Yeah.
And I did get to the point where she knew I had a night trigger. So that was really good because she
Yeah.
could say, oh, mom's in her trigger. And we all
Yeah.
knew mom's in her trigger. And that's something. I wish if my parents had said, hey, we have triggers. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Parents have triggers.
That's everything. Like, I think just even the separation of like, this isn't about you, this is about me. I just really believe that that is massive for a child because, like, growing up, like, if, my parents were grumpy, like, that wasn't said. Like, you
Yeah.
know, it wasn't acknowledged.
You could talk to Aaliyah during the day about how you don't know why, but you turn really grumpy at night sometimes.
And that's exactly what I say,
Yeah.
right? I think
Okay.
that's
That's great.
really good for her to know because then she can confront me. Like I said, she'll say to me, like, you got really grumpy last night, but she doesn't have that shame. She's just like, it was you, wasn't it? And I'm like, uh-huh.
She's so cute. I love her so much.
Yeah, she really gets
She's
that.
so
And
smart. And then she's empathetic. She's like, what was going on with you?
yeah, yeah,
So
she's like,
like that,
okay,
see, do you see how that's positive? Because
I do.
you're modeling that you have a process, and she's seeing my parent has a process. They're not like
Yeah.
a perfect person. They're somebody who struggles because she's going to struggle.
Yeah, and I guess I just want every parent listening to know that, like, just because we're here talking about this and have, like, I think, really great ideas for how to navigate, like, challenging moments with your kids, doesn't mean that we can always access that.
Right. No, and we don't.
Yeah.
And we don't. And we don't. We screw it up. We screw it up and we screw. I screw up every single day. Every single day I screw something up with my daughter. I say things I wish I didn't say. I react in ways I wish I hadn't said. I say things all the time that I wish I wouldn't have said all the time, especially at this age because I'm so triggered about being rejected. I just say, and she tells me that she says, Mom, you're so pulley and you're so needy. That's what she says, which ironically is what my mother used to say to me when I needed her, right? Isn't this crazy how kids like repeat it? Like our kids will repeat our biggest traumas. They
Mm-hmm.
don't
That
even
is
mean
so
to,
crazy.
but they do. I'm working on my needy pulliness because it comes from that little kid inside me who didn't get any
Needed
of
her
it.
mom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, really needed her mom.
And what's so interesting about Tori, some days I can ask her a million questions and she answers them and she loves it.
Yeah,
And other days she can't stand it. I don't know. So I just have to be very responsive and just keep holding myself.
yeah.
I don't want to give up on like being like, what happened today? How was school? La, la, la.
No.
But I do. I get in the car now when I pick her up from school and I just say nothing. So I'd say nothing. And I just imagine spirit holding me and holding my inner child. And I say nothing. And she almost always goes, Mom, do you want to hear about my day? And I go, yes, please.
I love that.
And then she
Yes,
tells me her
please.
whole day. Yeah. And there's some days that she's in a bad mood where she doesn't say that. And I've now learned to just stay quiet, hold yourself.
What do you do? Do you like put on music or anything? Do you just chill?
She always ends up telling me stuff, even when she's in a bad mood.
Oh, wow. See,
Yeah, yeah.
that's the place where you have to go. That's the reminder that I think you forget. You're like, my kid doesn't, you tell me all the time. She's like, you're like, you don't tell me anything. Or Tori doesn't tell me anything. And I'm like, pretty sure yesterday she told you a whole bunch of stuff.
Right, that's my trigger. My partner Will's always saying, "You are close. You guys were just hugging yesterday. What are you talking
I
about?" And
know, I
I'll be like,
know.
"No, we're totally disconnected now." Or I'll say, "She hates me." Or like, I'm in my parts.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
in
it's
all
really
my
easy
kid
to do
parts.
that.
And it's very black and white child parts. She hates me. She loves me. I'm out. I'm out now. I'm on the out. And that's the other thing. There's things she doesn't tell me now, which is really hard for me. Me and her were talking about it the other day. And I said, you're not telling me about blah, blah, blah. And I know you're not telling me about blah, blah, blah. Is there something I did wrong? This is me being my pulley self. Is there something I did wrong that you don't want to tell me? She goes, Mom, I actually tell you a lot of stuff.
Mm.
And I go, You do? And she goes, Yes. I tell you a lot more than my friends tell their parents. And I'm like, Really? And I'm like, Okay, thank you so much.
Mm.
But then my wounded parts fixate on what she's not telling me, of course.
So funny. I was just thinking about how the other day, my daughter and my husband Sanjay, there was just a moment where I think he was like trying to help her with her pants or something. And she got really mad. And he didn't know what happened. He had no idea. She just was like, "No, Daddy," and ran away. And he was asking her after. It was a few minutes later. He said, like, is there something I did? Can you help me understand? And she just was like, "No, you didn't do anything." She just wouldn't, like, I
You wouldn't
think
explain it.
she wouldn't explain it. And like, he kind of kept pulling a little bit. He was like, "Oh, but I just was curious because I don't want to do that again. I don't want to make you upset." And I kind of said to him, I said, I think it's okay. Like, because I don't actually I think it was just one of those things where it was like, he doesn't need to do anything. He just needed to let her, welcome that big feeling and move through it. And that was kind of it. And yeah, it's interesting. It's like, if we go into like this place of like neediness, like, is there something I did wrong? Like, tell me what to do. It's like, no, just let me be.
Yeah, just
That's
let me
what
go
you can
through
do.
my feelings. Don't
Yeah.
analyze it. I'm only 13. I don't analyze everything like you do as adults.
Yeah, like, I'm not a fucking therapist, and
Yeah.
like as therapists and as like conscious parents, sometimes like we do end up like really fucking pulling on our kids.
Yeah. Yeah. We want to understand and know everything. I just want to say, though, the story you just told about Sanjay is so beautiful. And that's another way that you just don't know, Kara, the world that you're living in. You're
I
so used
know.
to it. Most parents and families, if the kid yelled, and
I
ran away,
know.
they get in trouble. They get
I know.
spanked, they get sent to their room, they get yelled at, they get shamed. They now, like, you don't speak to me that way. But, most kids can't, they're just not allowed to express negative emotions at all.
I
And
was
like
thinking that the other day.
we're in a different universe. The
We're in a
universe
different
that we're in.
universe.
Yeah, we are.
I was thinking, yeah, about how I'm so triggered by her screaming, which is another place that I keep working on. And I realized, actually, the way that I respond is really, really healthy. Like, I'll often just say, like, "What is there something I can do? Do you need some help?" Which I realized, even though I'm triggered, is a hell of a lot better than "time out. We don't scream in this house."
Right.
Even though I don't feel good inside, it's okay to be triggered by a loud scream, but at least I'm not fucking punishing her. She can still scream and have a feeling.
Yeah.
And if I can help her, I will. But if I'll say to her, "Do you need to just have a feeling, or do you want some help? Is there something I can do?"
Oh, that's great. I love that.
And she'll just go, I just need to be," or she'll say, "I need more love from you." Actually, she said that to me yesterday. So I asked her, she was
I
having
need more
a
love.
yeah, I said,
Yeah.
I said, "You seem like not yourself this morning. Is something up? Like, do you need something from me? Can I help?" And she was like, "I just need more love from you." And I said, "Oh," and I just picked her up and put her on my lap and like smothered her with kisses and hugs, and she was good.
That is so
I
sweet.
know. I thought that was so cool. She really knew what she needed, and she could tell me, like, it's safe for her to get what she needs.
I'm just thinking about non-coercion and people that are new to it that might be listening, and these examples are so important. Tori was doing her very first babysitting job this morning. She was texting me that she was so anxious that her dad was going to be late picking her up. She has this kind of thing about lateness that she gets really, really anxious. So she wrote me, I'm really scared dad's going to be late. And like, I've learned from Vivek and everything to just pause and just be empathetic. So the correct response is, "Oh, I'm sorry you're feeling so scared. How can I help?" You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But I
Mm-hmm.
didn't. I try to fix it. So I go,
Yeah.
"Honey, it's fine if he's scared. It's fine if he's late. No
Mm-hmm. No,
one's going to
nothing's
be
gonna
mad at you
happen.
if he's
Right.
late. It's not your fault." And I wrote, "Why are you so scared?"
Right.
I wrote that. And then I'm like,
Right.
sitting
You might as
it's
well
like,
say calm down, right?
right. And it's these micro moments. It's these micro moments where you go, how do I be the safe space where my kid
Mm-hmm.
wants to reach out to me? So I actually redid it. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry you're feeling scared."
Mm.
She's like, "Call daddy." And I was like, "Okay, I will call your dad right now."
I
And
love that.
I just switched.
I love that. That is so fucking present of you and so intentional. I also have loved using, because it's Vivek again, the ears. It's like
Yeah,
empathy,
ears.
relate, affirm, support. The relate one is my favorite lately, and she's really into it now. When I say, "Oh my God, I hate when I feel like that." I feel like that so much, and it's the worst. She really loves that. She really feels seen by that.
Really?
And yeah, like when I
It's
don't know,
by the way, it's empathize,
relate.
affirm. No,
Oh,
affirm.
sorry, I mixed up the two. Yeah, empathize,
Empathize,
affirm,
affirm, relate,
relate,
and then
support.
solve if there's something to solve.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah, okay.
support. Like, yeah, do whatever
It
you
could
need to
be
do.
support, it could be solve, but you
Yeah.
want to wait to being the last step is solving it.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
even say, how can I help? Could even be like, how do we fix it? You have to,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk of empathy. So it's like validating the feeling and going, oh, I know, I get that. But then if you don't relate, sometimes there can still feel like a disconnect, like especially for a kid, dealing with something to an adult, trivial, like being late, being picked up, right? That's so trivial because you know it's not going to have an effect. But in reality, like I could say to my kid, oh my God, I used to feel the same way when I would be at school waiting for my parent to pick me up and they'd be late. I'd just be like waiting and being like, where are
Right.
you? Like, and then I would,
Right.
get into that experience and I'd be like, you know what I mean? And then my kid will be like, yes, yeah. And then we can talk about that. And now all of a sudden we're connecting.
Well, it's interesting you said that I'm being so present with her because she's training me. If I don't pay attention, I'm out at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Like I actually have to pay attention and really listen and be because I'll just be there. She'll just be like, get out of my room. And that's that.
Or you don't have to. And then, yeah, you have a relationship that is a lot more like unpredictable, I guess. It's very secure what's happening because of your presence.
Well, I'm working very, very hard on it. I'm working very hard
Because
on
of
it.
your seeing it that way. That's the whole thing is that you have this
Yeah.
philosophy.
I mean, she had two friends over yesterday and she said, Mom, Mom. And she came down. She's like, you need to give my friend blah, blah, blah some therapy. She's like, my mom's a therapist. She should talk to you. And then the girl goes, I don't really have any problems. And Tori goes, yes, you do. And I said, I do think you have problems because everyone has problems. That's what I said.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah. And then the other girl was like, I hardly have any problems. And Tori's like, yes, you do. You have so many problems. And I was like, I think everyone has problems, you know? So we were all talking about that. And so, she includes me. Like, it's like my parts will tell you that I'm being utterly rejected, but every day there's all those moments too.
I mean, yeah, what kid, so very few kids will be like, let's all go have a chat with my mom, 13-year-old friends, So it's really yeah, that's a huge green flag, I would say.
Yeah, thank you. So, I work with parents, I coach parents who are moving towards non-coercion and collaboration. I have a Facebook group, I run support groups, blah, blah, blah. So, some of the main complaints and fears that parents have is about screen time. Everybody's absolutely freaking out about screen time. People don't know what to do, and we do a lot of brainstorming about it. That's like really, really hard. And when my daughter was about 5, she got her first iPad and whatever. She's been really into screens, like super, super, super into screens for her whole life. Now she has a phone and she's always on the phone with her friends. They basically are on like video chat
Mm.
all night long. So she's babysitting for the first time and she said, on the ride home from the first babysitting trial, she tried it for an hour. She said, I feel so, he's 8. She said, I feel so bad for M because he's on his screens all the time and he has like 4 different screens. And I wish his parents hadn't bought him all of those screens because now he's just going to lose like all this time of his childhood being on the screens. He's not even going to realize how great it is to be 8 years old.
Hmm.
And I was like, wow. I was like so blown away that she said that. And I was like, so you think that maybe like his mom needs to give him more limits or boundaries? Or she's like, I don't know. I just don't think they should have gotten him all those different kinds of screens. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, well, do you wish that I had done that with you? And she goes, yeah. And I said, well, why don't we start now? Why don't we start putting limits and boundaries on your screens now? She's like, Mom, that's the dumbest thing. I'm 13. Like, it's too late now. And I was like, okay.
So funny.
And so, in terms of like learning about this philosophy, you want to give enough space and collaborate enough that your child will choose their value system themselves. That's the idea that they learn and discover what their own value system is without you punishing them into your value system. That's the whole idea. That you're collaborating enough that they learn what they think is important. And so she's starting to learn about what she thinks about screens. She's starting to decide what she thinks is too much. She's seeing the kid. I'm not saying that you just neglect your kid and just let them do anything and they'll figure it out. It's not that. It's that you're in a deep discussion and exploration and they decide what they think is important. She
Yeah.
did the same thing. I don't know if I told you this, but she bawled me out the other day about the fact that I didn't make her have good manners. Did you hear
Yeah,
that?
you did. Yeah.
She was practically yelling at me. She was like,
Yeah.
"You let me be so rude to people, and you didn't tell me how to say please and thank you, and I was such a rude kid, and you did it wrong. You should have made me." And blah, blah, blah. She was like really
Mm.
intense. I was like, "Wow, I really, really hear you." And she's like, "And now I have to learn all by myself how to be kind to people." And I was like, "Wow, I really
Mm.
hear you, honey."
Mm.
And even though that was like, of course, a little hard to hear, I was like, wow, she's deciding what she thinks is important right now.
Mm-hmm.
She's deciding that being kind to people is really hard and she has to work on it. And that's important to her. Like having good manners is important to her. I never made her. I never forced her. I never shamed her. I never punished her. I would always say, thank you or please. I modeled it, but like I
Mm-hmm.
never tried to get her to do it. And now she's 13 and she's decided that kindness is important.
It's so interesting because, people will say like, but that's so old. 13. You've had like a brat all these years. But it's funny because I don't think that that's true. I think that when she was young, she had lots of moments where she was actually kind. She wasn't just a,
Yeah.
mean kid all the time.
No,
That's not how she
she wasn't.
was.
Mm-mm.
And my daughter, I'm raising her the same way, and I don't force her to say please or thank you or anything. And there's a boy that she plays with, and he used to want to hold her. He always wants to hold her hand. He loves her. And she used to just go no and fold her arms and I used to tell her, you go, sister, you tell him no, you don't want to hold his hand, you don't have to. And she said, yeah, I don't hold his hand. And I was like, no way, Jose, I don't hold hands if I don't want to hold hands. Like, yeah. But now she's actually saying to him, oh, no thank you, because actually my hand is too hot. And she's like giving him more of a, I don't know, just like kind of connected response that isn't just like so like no. And I think
Yeah.
she's just learning that like, oh, I like him, he's my friend,
Mm.
and because I like him, I'm going to treat him this way. So it's interesting because yeah, maybe you might see my kid on the street, and the other day a parent said something to her at the park. She was having a moment and the parent said she was upset because her sandcastle wasn't working properly, and I just let her cry about it. She said, I know, I hate that, right? That sucks. Said maybe we can try again in a little while. And the parent said, oh, I think it'll be better next time. And my kid hates that. Like when another parent comes in and like tries to fix it. And she just ran over to me and she put her head in my lap and she said, I don't like strangers. And she said, you tell her. And I said, oh, I think I might just not say anything. Like, I think I might just be with you.
Uh-huh.
So if you saw my kid in that moment, you'd be like, what a brat. What a bratty 3-year-old. Like, I don't like strangers. That mom was just trying to help.
Right.
But really, it's because she doesn't owe her anything.
Wait, so you didn't feel comfortable going up to the stranger and saying, "My daughter said to tell you she doesn't like strangers"? You didn't feel
No,
comfortable
I
doing
didn't
that?
because this kid was like kind of talking to her kid after, and it was just like it would have been like I would have had to like interrupt them and been like, "Oh, by the way, my kid, doesn't like strangers." So I just ended up like comforting my kid.
Yeah.
I felt like it was better to just stay with my kid and process with
But
her.
that's an interesting moment. I wonder what Vivek would have done.
I don't know, he probably would have, I'm sure he
Do you
would have
think he
done
would have went
something.
over and said, my child asked me to tell you that she doesn't like strangers"?
Probably. Yeah, I'm a bit still, and in things like that, I think when my kid says, the next door neighbors are out in their backyard, my kid will say, "You go tell them that you know, we like want to play with them or something like that." And I'll say, like I just like don't want to. Like I don't want to like talk to them right now, or I don't want to like I don't know, she'll like ask me to tell people stuff like other adults and like I feel uncomfortable and I will not.
Well, let's hold that as a question. Let's ask Vivek about that because
Okay.
you're saying no.
Yeah.
You're saying
Or
no.
I'm like trying to
Because
find
you
another
could
way.
go over, you could go over there because she wants to know that you have her back
I know. That's
and
what
that
it
you're going to
is.
advocate for her. So you could change exactly what she said and make it, you could be like, I don't know what. You could
I
change
just
it.
like, you know what it is my trigger is that like I don't want to fucking deal with these other parents. Not the neighbors. The neighbors are cool, but like that woman at the park. Because if I had done that, I guarantee these people are so fucking weird that she would have like said something snippy or it would have been like so
Right.
uncomfortable and then it would have been
Right.
not paying attention to my kid who also hates when I talk to people. Like she
Uh-huh.
always wants my attention after she
Right.
guarantees she would have been like, mommy, mommy. And I wouldn't have been able to have a real, kind of productive conversation around the whole point that I'd be trying to make. And
Yeah.
I could see that play out, and I could tell with that
But
person's
what if you
energy.
changed it? Like, what if, I don't know if Aaliyah would be with you, but what if you went over there and said, my daughter asked me to come over and say hi, so I'm just saying hi. Or would that make it wrong because then she might come over and talk to you more?
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway,
See,
it's a
my
good
thing is I
question.
just don't like these other parents. I get annoyed with them because they're
I
like, you
understand.
know,
I understand. Yeah. I'm just
it's
curious
tough.
about
I would
this.
do wanna,
I'm
I
just
do,
curious about this thing of her saying, would you do this? And then you're like, no. I'm just
I
curious
know.
about that.
I know. I know. It's totally my own thing. I mean, it's reasonable for her to ask, and I get that she wants me to have her back,
Right.
but I don't fucking want to deal with these other parents. They're so annoying.
I understand. I am not talking about that. I'm just talking
No,
about
I
that
know.
moment. Yeah, some of them you could, Kara, you could, if you don't want to do it right then, you could later when you're home, you could have stuffies and you could go over and do it in front of
Yeah.
you could replay it and actually do it. Like say, okay, this is gonna be I'm sorry I didn't go up and say anything. I was really feeling shy. You could say that. I was feeling
Mhm.
really shy or I was feeling really nervous. I'm gonna do it now. And then
Mhm.
put her there and go up and say, Aaliyah said to tell you she doesn't like strangers.
Mhm.
And see if she could get a laugh from it and feel like she got the thing completed that she
Yeah.
wanted.
Yeah. That's
And then you
such a
could be
good
like, do
point.
you want to do it? And then maybe she wants to do it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there are times where I'm actually feeling fine to do it. But
Oh,
it's I think it's the energy of the person. I get like a vibe and I'm like, I can't deal with them.
okay.
Yeah. But sometimes
Yeah.
I'll say, "Oh, sorry, she just doesn't like strangers." And
Yeah.
I don't have like a problem with it, but that woman, I was like, it's gonna be a
Yeah.
battle if I say something."
So I think my suggestion is kind of cool that you could
I
do it
think it's good.
later.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. In conclusion, we are frauds. We're doing our best, but life is hard and we suck and our kids don't suck and we try really hard and we have good victories and we have big mistakes and we support each other. That's
And we're not perfect. And you shouldn't, and you can't be, and nobody is.
No, it's a mess. It's a goddamn mess. Parenting is just really, 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 really hard. That's just the way it is.
Yeah,
Nobody tells us how hard it's going to be. And then it's so hard. And then we feel like failures. And also, you can't account for the level of trauma that your child is going to bring up in you. It's going to happen. I promise. Even if you don't think it's happening, I promise you it's happening.
even if you think that other parents are perfect or better than you because they don't get triggered in the same ways, they are getting triggered in other ways.
Yeah, and you just don't know you just don't know what's going on in people's homes. You just have
Yeah,
no idea.
yeah,
I mean, I meet parents all the time who tell me that they're really close with their kids, and then I get around them and they're just punishing the shit out of their kids. They tell me, "Oh,
exactly.
things are great, la la," la," and then you hear them talk to their kids, and you're like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, that's another big one. Like you don't know
Yeah.
actually how those conversations sound. They could be totally judgy and shamey and critical, and you just don't know. So,
Also, what they think is close is that their kids are behaving. That's what they think
uh-huh.
of as closeness. It's like, well, my kid's listening to what I'm saying, and that's all I ask for, is that they behave and they be well behaved. That's what's important to me. So things are going great because I've used my power and my force to make them behave. So I'm happy.
Parenting's hard. You don't know what to do.
You're blaming your kids, but it's probably you.
Yeah, that was good. That was fun.
This has been Your Kids Don't Suck. You can find me, Cara Tedstone, at www.caratedstonetherapy.com and on Instagram at Cara Tedstone Therapy. On my website, you'll find links to recommended readings and a link to my Reparenting with Mindfulness workbook, available now on Amazon.
You can find me, Rythea Lee, at www.rythea.com. That's RYTHEA.com. There you'll find published books, articles, and music and parenting videos. Also, I'm on TikTok at Rythea Lee, on Instagram at Rythea Lee. You can book parent mentoring sessions with me through my website. And also I have an Advice from a Loving Bitch YouTube show that helps people heal self-hatred, and that's rythea.com/advice. It is important and essential to put our voices, Rythea and Cara, in a context. We are two white, cisgendered, straight, middle-class women living with financial and societal privilege. Because of this, our perspectives are limited and do not reflect the realities of all of our listeners. This podcast will feature guests with expertise around conscious parenting who differ in race, class, abilities, sexual orientation, and histories from us to broaden the conversation and reflect the lives of as many people as possible. 25% of the proceeds of this podcast will go to creators of color who have been mentors and influences on our work and in our growth as parents.
If you like our show, please subscribe and stay tuned for more conscious parenting advice and insights. And check out our link tree at linktr.ee/yourkidsdon'tsuck to donate and connect with us.
Kids don't suck anything that's sweet.